Net gain, networking, encouragement, and training. Brought to you by Jack of All People Trades, helping snow and landscape companies recruit, train, and retain the best employees. What's up? Welcome to Net Gain. This is Networking Encouragement Training. I'm your host, Evan Tashwire from Jack of All People Trades. We help landscape, snow, and service businesses stop losing good employees and build win-win workplaces without all the corporate HR fluff. Net Gain is for snow and landscape businesses who are tired of hiring, training, and then losing good people. Each episode tackles some real issues and gives you what actually works in the field. So with that being said, we got some special guests with us today from Extra Mile Snow. We got the owner, Aaron Rodman, and our operations manager, Harry Stelt. So Aaron and Harry, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Aaron, back from I've been in the industry 40, about to be 47, got in the industry when I was 22, just starting out with a walk behind snowboard and worked our way up and really enjoyed it.
My name's Harry Stelt, operations manager. I think I've been here, I think this is 5 years. Had my own business before that, kind of doing the same thing. Had a good opportunity to come over here and help the big boys in town, so it was cool. I kind of had the same start, 8th grade before I could drive. You shovel your neighbor's stuff and went from a shovel to a snowblower to a plow truck, and the rest is history.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you have a lot of the traditional experience a lot of people in the industry have of, started young, built your way up with all the equipment. Both of you have, Aaron, having your own thing now, Harry having had your own thing, and then just kind of going from there. So that's awesome that you bring in a lot of real life experience. So before I jump into the questions themselves with NetGain, I always like to start with an encouragement, being that we're recording this in January and probably going to have it out pretty quickly, actually, since I do need an episode release. I want to really drop a mid-season encouragement for snow fighters, which is really, prioritizing self-care, which, okay, you're not going to have the infinite time to do, but definitely in that off time as things kind of wind down, when you do find those windows for family time, for sleep, for taking care of yourself, use those open windows like they're gold. And same thing, I would encourage leaders, let your team do the same thing, because if they've been working days straight, weeks straight, let them use that time as much as they can and fight for it, because there's going to be other things you feel like, oh, I have to do all the things I didn't get done. Like if it's not crisis mode or something that absolutely has to get done, like, obviously feed your kids and everything. But if it's not that level, like, if it's like, oh, I have to get my, car washed or something, it's like you can wash your car in a couple weeks when you have a break, but like get your rest first, prioritize yourself first, because you are important and you're working hard. So you don't want to lose yourself in that, hustle and bustle of winter. So with that, we're going to transition here and get started. So both of you kind of gave a little bit in your intro, but just kind of give me a little bit about, Extra Mile Snow. Where are you at? What's the company look like, and how did it come about?
Yeah, let's give this one to Harry.
I don't know the entire backstory. I can kind of give the last 5 years, if you will, from my time here. And I guess on the outside looking in, before I came to work here, it was always, you see Extra Mile stuff everywhere. You see the blue plow markers. They did all the big jobs in town. They had the big equipment, so that was always cool to see. So for me, it was kind of, a good transition to go work for that. And it was something that I always, saw, and it was like, wow, this is really cool. Now I'm the one who gets to run the stuff and, kind of oversee the whole thing as a manager for that. So over the last 5 years, we've definitely grown quite a bit. It's usually October, and Aaron and I kind of go, all right, well, let's start putting our routes together, and you get to a point where you're like, okay, we're good. And then come end of October, a big job pulls up, and it's like, oh man, that'd be really cool to do that. Let's find a way to do that. And this year we had probably three or four large size jobs that ended up showing up, and it was kind of like, let's just find a way, right? There at a certain point you kind of just go, oh, I would personally say that it's better to just overcommit and you figure out how to make it happen. Obviously you can only afford, so many machines and have so many guys working for you, but at a certain point, it's one of those where you go, oh, well, we have too much, or you're kind of on the opposite spectrum of going, oh man, I really wish we would have taken on, these 3 more jobs because we got guys that want to work. And I would say for us, there's kind of a happy medium. We have a lot of really good operators and a lot of, good help. But the difficult part is finding that good help. Being able to find somebody who, gets up in the middle of the night to start, work crazy hours. And most of those guys are working a full-time job. So by anywhere from 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning, they're, hey guys, I gotta, go to my full-time job, and it's like, okay, thanks for the help. Let's figure out how to get the last couple jobs done. So
Yeah, and just something that popped into my head too when Harry was talking, because there've been plenty of years that what Harry was saying about adding jobs late in the season here. We're like, oh, these routes are beautiful. We've got them set up perfect. And then next day, big job rolls in, and we only take care of one city. So it's about a 5-mile diameter. So to pass up on a really key opportunity, like we've got 2 places huge that we added late season. Both of them had been serviced by one in-house by their own maintenance staff and one by a private contractor, but both of those the last 30 years, so it's not like that opportunity really came up very often. And I know you're going to ask us later about the Wolf America equipment we run, but having started up our dealership with that gives us a leg up to be able to take some late season accounts because we don't have to figure out, oh man, can we even get equipment somewhere? We just pull equipment from the dealership. And so that gives us some extra equipment. But sadly, equipment is the easy part. Finding the operators and qualified operators is the hard part there.
Yeah, definitely. So a couple things I heard in there is one from you talked about Harry with seeing the, extra mile equipment and then kind of being like, that's a big dog, and then being able to work for them, like, sends that sense of pride. So having that, nicer, it doesn't have to be the cream of the crop necessarily. It has to be well maintained. It's got to look good. It's got to look like you're caring for it. But having that and also having a job well done with it really is a selling point to help find those operators, because you think about it, if you drive from a people perspective, if, an operator's driving by and they see a broke down bucket where you like chained a loader on, the chain looks like it's rusted, you're probably not thinking, yeah, I really want to run that. That's not going to break in the middle of a storm. Versus if they see your stuff and it's like, oh, that looks slick, they see your logo, it's like that can be something that can be a pull for them. I think also another thing you said, and I want to kind of, pivot into this a little bit. You talked about the large jobs that you take later in the season. So how have you kind of encouraged your team, to take those on and not made it feel like, oh, here he goes again, boss is dumping another thing on us when we had it perfect? Like, how do you kind of encourage your team when you take that on?
I guess I'll take that one, and then Harry can tell me if I'm full of garbage and it's what I'm thinking isn't actually working here. I would say to start out with, we don't have a huge habit of doing that. There are large jobs. A couple of years back, we had the opportunity to take on the local Bass Pro Shops, and we talked amongst ourselves with management. So I guess the first thing is I'm not making a decision on my own solely off of dollars. And we brought all the different department managers in here, had to talk about it. And one of them, Dan at the time, gave the example. He said, I kind of feel like right now we're at the end of Thanksgiving dinner. We've eaten, we've had our pie, we're comfortably full. But how many times have you had one too many pieces of pie and then sat there all night in pain thinking, I had one too much, one too many. I would have been better without that. And I'm a real visual person, so that analogy really spoke to me. I was like, you know what? We are. Yeah, I would rather be comfortably full all winter long than stressed out, running ragged. And we have found, and even had some trouble this year experiencing, I don't want to take on new work at the expense of sacrificing quality to our existing jobs that we've had, because it doesn't do us any good to take on a $25,000 job only to lose 3 $10,000 jobs because now we're scrambling to get there. And we did notice that starting to happen this year. Fortunately, we had really early snow, so we've been able to catch it early, rearrange some routes, add another piece of equipment to a certain area of town that was really struggling. Some of that is operator issue as well. Some everyone's the best operator you've ever seen until you've seen them. You know, you get out there and you're like, how did this guy slip through the cracks? Like, I could shovel this parking lot faster than our $100,000 machine is plowing it. Yeah, you know, so some of it is you can have it all lined up well. You know, that machine should be able to handle that many acres, but the difference between a great operator and even a so-so operator, it is absolutely insane. I mean, I could put our best operator on our smallest, worst machine, and he'd probably get more done than our worst operator on our biggest machine. Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, Harry, anything you'd say to that as far as kind of how you motivate the crew from an operations side when you do take that later work on after you felt like you were settled?
So kind of a unique thing for us is there's only a handful of us that are full time.
So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, Aaron will tell us like, hey, we got the opportunity to, you know, bid on this. What do you guys think? And it's like, you look at your routes on paper and you go, I think we could do that, you know, because you only know so much until you know, the first snowstorm of the year was 12 inches this year. And we go, oh, wow, this is, you know, on paper, it looked really good. When you get a foot of snow, you're kind of like, it's going to get done when it gets done at that point, you know? So for me, I in the past, I was running a salt route with my own guys and then, you know, also trying to help and manage all the other routes and whatnot. And this year we've kind of switched that over. So I'm not on a dedicated route. So I'm able to talk to a lot more operators, work through that with our salt foreman, and even been involved in some of the sidewalk stuff, which has been really helpful. So as far as keeping them motivated, as far as our workers, you know, a quick trip breakfast sandwich and a Mountain Dew goes a long way with a lot of people. We've had it before where we get into a big snowstorm and our office manager will go get pizzas and drive around and drop pizzas off and hot chocolate and coffees and stuff like that. So it's definitely, you know, encouraging for those guys to see that it's encouraging that they see, you know, when Aaron's out there bombing around and, you know, that the guys like seeing Aaron. And I try to kind of just problem solve as fast as I can with what comes up. So as far as the morale, I mean, most of the guys that work for us, they're texting me a day ahead, 2 days ahead, like, hey, I see snow coming in. So it's not like, you know, they're not paying attention to the weather either. They're, you know, they're excited for it. They see it. Very rare occasions, you know, if you get 4 snowstorms in a row, sure, are the guys like, geez, you know, or the times where, you know, kind of a thing that we've been doing now is we get 3/4 of an inch of snow, even though most of the stuff is, you know, an inch, we go and plow, but 3/4 of an inch dealing with a salt shortage right now, we've found that it's just faster to plow it off. You use half the amount of salt and the lots look better than if you would have just salted it. So that's kind of, you know, broad story. It's keeping everybody involved. And a lot of the guys really enjoy it. Just, you know, I talk to guys all summer. Some of the guys I don't talk to, but then it's like, oh, here's November and we're talking again. And it's like, we never stop talking.
We do some other things too. Like, we try and catch up with guys midsummer. We started, several years back, we started, we rented a space at the county fair. The intention was,
Nice.
the intention was for recruitment. I told them at the fair, I don't want to be anywhere near the rides and the food and the exhibits. I want to be right by the back of all the barns, right where all the 4-H kids are and their older brothers and sisters. And we want to hit the farm crowd hard, looking for extra help. And that's worked. We found a couple, but more so what we found is we got a big grassy area. It's a little quieter over there. And the guys who work with us, we find them stopping in. The younger crowd, the teenagers and early 20s, they're bringing their parents over so they can introduce their parents to us and catch up and say hi and point like, that's the machine I run over there, or I want to try this one out. The guys my age are bringing their kids by and letting their kids climb in the loaders, and you know, we're getting to meet people's wives and kids, and then, you know, a lot of the teenagers that shovel for us, they're actually bringing their friends over. We gotta, you know, we thought about having some cool gifts there, but what's everyone really want at the fair? They want something cold that it's 90 degrees out. They want something cold to drink that doesn't cost $12. So
Yeah.
we just have an unlimited, endless cooler chest full of cold Gatorades and waters there. And so these guys just keep swinging back and bringing their friends, and their friends end up signing up to help us shovel and whatnot too. And so that's one of the ways over the summer. I think a couple of times we've done some cookouts and just sent a big text, hey, cookout at the shop this afternoon for whoever wants to stop by and get a burger.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I kind of pulled, as a trainer, I'm always trying to pull takeaways and things that people can really use. And I think three big things I pulled from that. First, I'll start from what you just talked about of, the recognition for your employee, both the recognition and the events to get together. I'll kind of put those as one takeaway as something that you should have for your team. Like number one is definitely the recognition during storms, both, even if it's just hopping on the radio, like, hey, it was just by this lot. This looks great. Great job.
Mm.
Thank you for following up. I know I asked you to pivot here. You did a great job, that recognition. And I can get into all I study employee engagement. So I'm familiar with all, a lot of the Gallup stats, but they've shown out decade by decade, timely recognition really does make a difference to whether people are engaged like you guys have them, where they're texting you before the storm, hey, we're ready to roll, or you're trying to, get people because you have a revolving door. So that does, research backs you up on what you do there, and with what you with the, summer fairs and get-togethers and stuff, because several things there. One, that rapport building it's considered the most controversial question in the Gallup Q12 is I have a best friend at work, because people are like, well, I don't have my best friend at work, but really what they say that measures is they say it like this, if a friend calls, you're probably not going to change your plans to help them out. But if the best friend calls, you're going to be like, yeah, sure, I can help you out. And they kind of use that same analogy is when you build that relationships of like, hey, I've introduced this guy to my mom, like, Harry and Aaron know my parents. I talk to them. If they call and say, hey, can you get in a few hours earlier? I know you only got a little bit of sleep. Can you get back out? Yeah, that's somebody I'll go back out for. So that does tangibly make a difference with
That
that.
makes sense.
So what I would say to any, operators, owners out there, leaders, is build those things in. They do pay dividends, both that recognition, that, stuff during the storm, and then those postseason events. I've heard one, I hope I'm not giving his stuff away, but he's talked about at several conferences, is, Mike McCarron said he has like monthly cookouts with his team. And again, that's just that rapport building time. It's time to just sit down, get to know each other, not, you can talk about work, but you don't have to. If you just want to talk about your fantasy football leagues or your dog, or, what you're doing, if you're on a weight loss or workout journey, or, hey, I've seen you biking, how's that been going? That's that time to just build that rapport and really, draw people in. And it's kind of, I said this on another podcast too, soft skills, soft skills is the most mislabeled thing because they're anything but soft. Like things like that are what gets people coming back, and dollar wise make a big difference. Like what you guys are doing, that makes a big difference. And then the second takeaway I'd say from what you said about, with the original question of how do you get your crew to pivot when you have the perfect route and the job coming in, I would say for any owner and leader, especially those who are making decisions on, service, if you're going to take on additional contracts, have a process. It doesn't have to be cumbersome or anything, but just even a couple questions you ask yourself and your top leaders. Like, number one, like you said, Aaron, have people that you confide in and that you get perspectives from, number one. Number two, ask yourself, like, the pie example I think was really good. Like, is this going to be one extra good thing that's going to just make it the great meal, or is this going to be one that's going to overstuff us? And then two, also, ask yourself, is it going to sacrifice quality on other sites, which kind of goes back to the overstuffing. So I think all those things together is something, have a process where you ask yourself those questions, because, systems scale, effort doesn't. But if you have a system, then you can really kind of analyze, is it good or not? And I love the pie example because, I know that thing of like you squeeze one more in or you just do that. And one thing I would add too, before I go on and talk about the equipment side, is just lost my, got it back here, was, one more thing I would say is I think telling people the why behind things is really important. And I think you shared a good one when you said, these two properties one had been done internally for 30 years, and one had been with another company for 30 years. So it's like, if we don't take these now when they're offered, they might not be in our lifetime or our work life again. So if we don't take them now, we miss that opportunity. So yes, I know I'm asking you to stretch, but I'm asking you to stretch because I want to see this be our account for the next 30 years. And I think when people know why you're doing something, as opposed to, oh, Aaron's just trying to make more money, then into that. It's like, okay, this is a long-term win. And yeah, any thoughts on that? Anything kind of striking as I was saying that?
I found myself taking a lot of notes here, learning while you're speaking. And then it finally occurred to me, wait, I can just watch this later and take notes at that point. But yeah, one of the things it occurred to me, the amount of times I've taken pictures of something that looks crappy on a parking lot that one of our guys shoveled or plowed and sent that to the foreman or someone with a circle around it saying, hey, this is not how it's supposed to look. I'm not thinking of a whole lot of times where I actually took a picture of an amazing parking lot and sent it to that person and was like, this looks awesome. There's been a couple of times I've congratulated guys and said, hey, you guys have the best looking lots on this side of town. But I think that's something I should maybe myself start doing, is snapping some pictures and just sending them to people and just saying, this looks awesome. Because I know I like hearing that from people. I'm more willing to receive the criticism when I do screw up, when I know that person is also recognized that I succeed at times as well.
Yeah, really spot on. So I think with that, number one, I appreciate the compliment that, you were taking notes. That definitely shows like, what we're putting out's engaging. So that's good, and if you're taking notes on here, my hope is others are taking notes, not because I'm so great, but because that it really is helping you in your business. And one thing I always challenge from a training standpoint when I teach is, what's one thing based off of, so even to those listening to the podcast, what is one thing off of everything you hear here today that you're going to start, stop, or continue doing based on what you hear? Just take one. So for you, if you just take one, if you say every event, I'm going to find a lot that's good and I'm going to recognize one person, don't even overcomplicate it. If you get yourself in that, report in that thing, you might be shocked in the end of the season, a couple of years, how much of a habit it is. And it also energizes you too, because, when somebody even comes back and is like, oh, thanks, man, that made my day. Like that lifts you up in addition to lifting them up. And it really is that rising tide that kind of lifts all ships. So Harry, anything from you? Sorry, I cut in before, gave you a chance to respond there, but anything that kind of came to mind?
I'm a little on the opposite end of the spectrum because my camera roll is filled with just snow piles. And most of that, whether it's plow guys or salt guys, I use that for opportunities to learn. Beginning of the year, the camera roll is usually handicap areas, fire hydrants, and areas by buildings. That's like, hey guys, we can't push that there. We don't want to block all that stuff off. But then, you get to the middle of the season when the piles start looking big and you got some guys who are really stacking it up and you take pictures and, it's just cool for those guys to have too. Cause you're in a machine, you're just thinking crank away, but I like the pictures. The big piles are cool and you park a loader next to it or something. And then the salt guys, it's a real easy thing because, if there's a 1/4 inch of snow on the ground, the guy goes and salts a parking lot, but you can see where it's bare pavement and it's like awesome. But then it's like, well, what about all the handicap corners and, these, some areas where, the truck didn't back into to finish up a loading dock or something like that. So I use the pictures quite a bit. And that's more or less just, kind of been in my nature forever of taking pictures of cool stuff. And it's just easy instead of telling a guy like, hey, at Walgreens, you got to, back into this, this, and this versus a lot of the salt guys don't come in the day after. So they don't see what the lot looks like that actually melted and didn't melt. So, and I can use that as, snap the picture and send it to them the next day and just say, hey, this didn't melt off overnight. Just make sure you back in and hit these spots, for the next time.
Visual. Good. Go ahead, Aaron.
Those are a lot of things that I like having people here that cover for my weaknesses. Put it bluntly, we'd be screwed if everyone here thought the way I did. We'd go down a lot of rabbit trails and never circle back. But I'm glad to have guys like Harry and others doing that as well. And that's one of the big benefits. I was really excited this year for us to, the intention has been to pull Harry off a route for a while and just, Harry, you're just a roamer. I don't care what you do. Just go out there, make sure stuff's getting done. You don't have a route. I mean, it sounds more pie in the sky. It's a great plan until something's broken and our mechanic's already fixing one thing and now I need someone to go do the next. Or
Yeah.
3 people don't show up. And so now, Harry, you're sitting on a loader, but it gets you on a different route and gets you around seeing people and whatnot. But we talked about it this year because it's more than just a decision. It's an investment, another truck. It's more training to get someone to cover what Harry was doing, and just decided late fall.
Yeah.
We talked about, we're like, let's just make it happen. Is what is. We are going to get someone else in your truck covering your route. You'll have to do a little bit of hand holding with them to start out with, but I want you out training, catching problems, guys that are taking too long to get stuff done. Watch them, figure out why. Is it something trainable, or is it just the way that person's wired? We've been able to get some great opportunities with Harry out there watching that we didn't have in the past.
Yeah, 100%. I think, definitely too, a couple good things you talked about is number one with team building, the, hiring to fill your weaknesses. And yeah, I would think it was actually an episode I have coming out with Thane Isaacs from Innovations Tomorrow. He was talking about that of like, if you shouldn't be the smart, if you're an owner, you shouldn't be the one who knows everything. That's why you hire people and pay people on your team. You pay them to know that area. You pay them to have those strengths or those, things that balance you. So that's a great thing to have. And then I think with even, taking Harry off a designated route and saying, I'm going to put somebody else there. That's also, anytime you level up like that, it's also a chance to level somebody else up too and delegate. And transparently, it can be scary because it's like, okay, Harry's killed this route. I know I have no problems with him there. And it's, with delegation, I always tell people it's going to be harder at first because, Harry's done it for, 5 years and you haven't had an issue. Now you got somebody new doing it who doesn't have the internal knowledge and the, knowing those properties like the back of his hand of, okay, I'm back in here. Here's the most efficient way to do it. So it will be harder, but it's also worthwhile because you can't scale if you don't ultimately delegate. And, sometimes that is one of those you have to slow down to speed up long-term things that has to happen in business.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So last thing I'll say before we talk about the wolf loaders, one thing too, just as a takeaway for anybody who is, thinking about kind of what Aaron, you were saying about having people on your team that are different from you or process or see things differently. One exercise I really like that I've done is simple 4 questions called the best of me. It's you get the best of me when, you get the worst of me when, this is what I need from you, and you can count on me too. So what you do is you reflect, you answer those for yourself, and then you share those amongst your team. And when you share those with your team, you can really see, okay, like for me, I'm somebody, you get the best of me when we're in an environment like this. We can talk things out. We can learn off each other. It's positive. I'd say you get the worst of me when there's yelling, negativity. People are just put down for no reason. So you kind of know then, how do you ideally want to communicate in ways you get the best out of people. But even if you can't always avoid the worst of situations, but I always say in those worst of situations, knowing that that's probably triggering somebody and how do you support them. So like if we're on a site and the customer's blasting me and you're like, okay, I know this is getting under his skin. Like, let me make sure I talk to him for 5 minutes. Hey, do you need to dump the bucket about that? Like that was, they kind of got a little crazy on you. So just things like that can really make a difference long-term. So I hope for you guys and those listening that that's something you can take away and really run with. And if that's something you can implement in your business, great. It's a huge win.
I think that's something you can implement in your home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because people do process differently. So, if you're married, you got kids, your families, like, yeah, that absolutely can be implemented and really bring perspective and just get you to, learn and appreciate too. So, pivoting a little bit here, talking about the, Wolf America wheel loaders. So tell me a little bit about, those, what's their competitive advantage and who are they really best for? So if I'm, looking at Wolf America, who are those loaders best for? What type of company? What's the ideal client for that?
We rock, paper, scissors this one? Are you on it? Or?
I can start with it. So I guess to make a long story short, what Aaron and I kind of decided, and we're looking at, how do we add more machines and not have to spend $100,000+ for them. So it's definitely a cost savings. So that's a big thing. We ended up ordering a couple of them sight unseen, brought them in and started rocking them, and said, oh, okay, well, we can save some money on buying these machines. Maybe somebody else will want to, right? So we looked at that as an opportunity to, start the dealership essentially. It gives it I think we were at like the competitive advantage portion. That's what we were shooting for this question.
Yeah.
If you look at it broad scale, you're going to save 50 grand on a competitor or on a competitive size wheel loader. There's pluses and minuses, right? You're going to save the 50,000. But, service wise aspect, we don't have the ability to service across the US for these machines. We offer, it's a 1-year service warranty. So if something happens, you can take it to your dealership and we pay for it.
Like any dealership.
Yep.
Just your local ag, we'll give them our credit card.
Yep.
Your local ag.
But looking at the positives, you save 50 grand. The big thing for us is the parts are very inexpensive. So you're talking 70% cheaper in most cases. That goes from a hydraulic hose to door glass. It's one of those things. If for us, our machines don't work in summer. They sit generally in the same spot and don't move. So if you can afford to have that $130,000 loader sit there all summer and not have any issues, but that payment hurts, versus having a machine that costs $50,000 less, it's not going to hurt the pocket as much. So it's been, and we find a lot of guys are doing this with wheel loaders. So a lot of the people that we sell to, they say, hey, we're just looking for a loader to put a bigger plow on to plow stuff faster, and we're able to do that. And to go along with that, from the plow side of things, I just saved 50 grand on the machine. So maybe I can buy that, more expensive plow that's going to have a better scrape and function better and work better. So you save money on the loader side while being able to spend a little bit more, for the quality of scrape that you're getting then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like what Harry brought up about I'm a big fan of not 1980s and 90s snowplows. So the plow technology, I've got some favorites. I got some I don't like. I'll spare that here. People can call me directly about that. But I'm a big fan of taking the money you saved on these machines and pairing it up with a high-end snowplow and have just amazing parking lots afterwards. And it's worked really well. We've done revision after revision after revision. Harry skipped over a little bit there, in that we got 2 machines, worked them a bit, talked with their engineers, made all kinds of revisions, and then 2 more machines, and then more revisions, and we still are putting upgrades on them, and moving. Our newest machines came over. We just rearranged where the heaters go and moved all the hydraulics onto the joystick, so everything's on the joystick now. And so there's new things that we keep adding to them and moving around, and we're working directly with the engineers there, and I mean, they feel like very American machines, and they fill a void. Am I telling people swap out your whole fleet of cats or something like that? No, I'm supplement. A big area where we're using them in-house and with other people. These are less expensive than a good quality skid loader now. So, or pretty comparably priced. So where you had routes where you had a skid loader, bump that up to, we run these things with like Arctic LD13s and some comparable Western and Fisher plows. We've got guys running them with metal pluses on them. Bump that up, do easily 2 times as much as what you were doing with the skid loader in a much more comfortable machine. You're up high, you can see all around, you don't have the big blind spot from the glass. So we've got a bunch of guys in-house that we presented it as a way to be able to move up. We moved up from a skid loader to this, and now they're pushing twice as much snow. They're on some bigger lots. They're going 20 some miles an hour from site to site instead of like 10 in a 2-speed skid loader. And then also like last minute to be able to supplement. We had some last minute sales this fall from guys who added jobs last minute. We added those couple jobs and we were able to figure these in. And like I said, we've been stocking the parts and they've been pretty darn reliable for us.
Yeah, so really good. So I definitely heard, and you kind of can nod and agree or, tell me if I'm missing, but two competitive advantages I really heard or places for them is number one, the supplementing the fleet. So like you get those extra jobs late, they can be good for, or two, kind of the almost growth or leveling up the fleet. So, if you get, hey, the truck's just not handling it or the skid loaders just, it's good, but it's, if I had a loader, I could do this faster. And then I would say a third, even the being able to reinvest in the in the nicer, plows and pushers on certain sites too. So, all good things to think about, for any owners, ops leaders out there as you're thinking about your fleet and, definitely, hit up Extra Mile, talk to them about wolf loaders. Like definitely want to have you guys back on. I know we're doing a recorded episode today, but I do want to have you back for a Net Gain Live. So what I do with those is they're a little more compact. They do like the show's a half hour, but I do that intentionally because I want to open the second half hour as social networking. So basically how it would work on, for, those on the podcast, we're on Zoom recording, but how it would work with a Net Gain Live is you'd have like whoever chooses to attend in here, the audience listening to us now, but then once we cut the recording off, you can network with them and vice versa. So where I really envision that, and this is a vision I'm pitching to any kind of manufacturer, company in the industry, is this is a place where if you're on a Net Gain Live guest, you can blast out to your, prospect list, customer list. Hey, come chat with us. We're going to be on this, watch the recording, but it's not like a webinar. You just have to watch and go away or maybe type something in the chat. We're actually going to open the room up and you can actually chat. So if people want to come and say, hey, here's what my site looks like, what do you think about this? Or this was my plan. They could actually have those conversations with you. And then obviously you can take information, talk further. It's fine. But I really view it as a place to be, in addition to Net Gain being a podcast, be in that live community too. Because, there's people that, we've had a couple people on that haven't known each other and have got different perspectives. So I want it to be that as well.
Yeah. And we try and make it all real transparent on our end too. It's kind of, the part I didn't mention is we've been operators and a snowplowing company for 25 years. So we've always been on the buying end. We know the things that drive us crazy about machines, like trying to pin down a salesman to how much does this cost? Is it even in my range? So, the website's wolfamerica.com. If anyone goes on there, pricing is on there. It's advertised pricing. Specs are on there. There's videos online. And typically by the time people call us or stop here, they're all ready to buy it. They just want to hop in, make sure it runs like they want. We try and be pretty straightforward with it. It's we're snowplowers, so we're using them. We get to it's fun seeing some of the more we have some local guys that lease ones around here, and it's been pretty cool to see those guys be able to take on some bigger jobs that and they've expressed it to us like without us renting these, they'd have trouble or couldn't even take on these bigger jobs. And seems to have been a blessing to them. So it's kind of fun. We're really enjoying. Sorry, now I'm going down a rabbit trail. One of the things I'm really enjoying with our company as we've gotten older as a company is how we're able to help out the other landscape and snow companies in the area. One with just not 25 years of knowledge and experience and how to do things, how to help bid things, how to help guys who've been struggling making a profit, help them with their numbers a bit. Harry started up a landscape supply yard here. So all summer long, we got anything from a one-man van with a trailer to large landscape companies coming in here to buy materials, but then also, hey, how would you guys set up this job? Or what other materials could I use? Or on the snow end, we got like 20 some guys that are other companies that are coming in here pulling salt from our shed. And boy, you could have a whole nother podcast on the salt shortage and what that's doing for salt availability. And then from a salt, in some ways, we're now a salt vendor. I mean, we still go through brokers, but we got to take care of our own properties. But I also want to make sure that we help everyone else out that's been helping us out. And but that's been my favorite part of our company this last couple of years, has been able to help out the other contractors in town through various different ways. And now with the equipment, just a whole new avenue.
Yeah, that's really cool that you guys have that because I think that, one thing I say is us against the storm. And I think as an industry, that's how we
Mm.
really have to think because you know, I say there'll always be disagreements, with, how we would do things. You do things one way, somebody another way. But I think having that collaborative nature where you say, like, it's us against the storm. So, like you said, if you can drop a piece of knowledge, obviously I do consulting within the industry on the people side, but I say if people can take from like a podcast and say, oh, I don't need to pay you because I can run with it. Hey, if you're able to run with the stuff I drop, go with it. That's why I do it. You know what I mean? I want people
Yeah.
to be able to run. And obviously, if you want more of like hands-on touch of like, no, I want you to really get in here and work with my team or want to go deeper on some things with you, we can do that too. But if y'all can take it and run, just like if someone else can take it and run with, knowledge you give or, being able to help with equipment, it's like that's great. So yeah, Harry, do you have anything else on that?
Um, so kind of a little bit back. We're in so like Aaron said, we service one town, so we're kind of the big fish in the small pond, and it's been cool to see kind of how we've been able to help out a lot of these other guys and just supplementing stuff. A couple guys they've called and said, hey, I've got spots for a little extra work. Do you have anything we can do? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, like yeah, let's get you a couple jobs. So they're plowing for us, they're buying salt from us, and they're close enough that if we get a crazy storm or something and we need to go send a piece of equipment over there to unbury the property, we can do that. So it's been not only has Extra Mile grown just in the business that way, but we've definitely been able to help a lot of these other guys who don't have the opportunity to put a salt bin up at their place. And we have a huge salt bin with a skid loader that sits there, and it's an honor system where you can come and buy salt. And same kind of goes for the landscape supply. I have a guy who buys 100 yards of mulch for one property, but with him being a little bit smaller, cash flow wise, it's tough to buy 100 yards of mulch at one time. Where uh, you know we're billing it every month or every 15 days, where he's not having to pay it, when he's doing the job. He's able to do the job, get paid for the job, and then we get paid. So we've been able to kind of help out, in a way, cash flow some of these other small guys, in their businesses and help them grow. Well, we're making a little bit of money on the material side, and then they're being able to kind of grow their whole business in total as well.
Even a couple guys who've accidentally cash flowed that we didn't need to.
Yep, that's happened too. And then you're waiting 3 months and you're like, hey, can we get paid?
Yeah, and I mean, payment challenges, that could be a whole series of shows in and of itself. I wouldn't even
Oh, yeah.
say show. That could be a series. But just kind of as we close up here, since we are midwinter, we're gonna be dropping this year in January. What encouragement would both of you give to, snow fighters out there listening, especially in light of we've had a early and heavy start to this winter? How would you encourage, those listening?
I would say don't be afraid to change what you thought was going to work.
Mhm.
If something's not working, like we've been able to pretty much find out, in a 12-inch snowstorm, yeah, it only happens every couple of years, but for us, those 12-inch snowstorms should be second nature. We have enough big machines, we have enough guys that we can be ready for that. So when we do only get 2 or 3 inches, we should just kind of, and it's over. So the big thing for us is I would say don't be afraid to try something new. Oh, there you go.
The dog.
Mine's been barking in the background. Don't be afraid to change up, what your original plans were. Have some flexibility. For us, we were running certain pieces of equipment and figured, yeah, it does the job okay, but if we buy this piece of equipment, that'll now free that guy up 2 hours earlier to help him, get to some other jobs and be able to help some of the other guys. So that's kind of been our big thing so far this year.
Myself, I could come up with something new, but honestly, it's dead on. Same as Harry's. I can't tell you how many times we've had winters lately where winter doesn't even start until the middle of January here. Like we've been getting snowfalls mid-January for our first plowing, which is ridiculous. It used to be November, early December.
Mhm.
And often what's happened is we realize there's problems. By the time we realize there's problems, whether it's people, equipment, routing, it's mid-February. And we're like, well, to change it now would just get everyone out of routine. And we got 3 weeks of winter left. Let's just ride it out and we'll start next year. It was really stressful having half a winter's worth of snow the first 3 weeks of winter. However, we saw our gaping holes. We saw where there were problems, and it's encouraging that it's early enough to do it. If we're going to drop money on some equipment, we just bought 30 grand worth of inverted snowblowers for 2 tractors. To do that in February, it's like, yeah, we're not really going to get any use out of it. To do it in January or in December, we're going to have to use it the whole winter. And I would pair that with, there's a couple customers that we flopped, that we got their stuff done, but not any extent to the quality and timeliness that we would have, that we sell on.
Yeah.
So, but that's early in the winter. And then what goes along with that is own it. I didn't just pretend. I actually called these customers, or some of them called me first, and I had to respond to them. And I'm like, yeah, and I own it. Like, you know what, ma'am? I am not happy with the service we provided you. It's early in the winter. I don't have the answer today. I will call you in the next week, but we will have a solution for how this does not keep going this way throughout the winter. And they were really, all of them, very receptive to, okay, I don't need an answer right now. I just need to know that you're working on it. And whether it was rearranging people, some places it was people, some it was equipment, some it was adding equipment, some it was technique, honestly. Like, guys, don't start in that area, or don't wait until this, I don't know, how big is Cedar? How many acres there? Like 20
plus.
Don't wait till these 25 acres are completely plowed before you even start salting. Like, you should have been salting 3 hours before your last truck was even done pushing out there. So things like that, with it being early, we can address it with the customers, we can make the changes. And I'm super excited because it's January 8th. We've had winters where it hasn't even started till now. And we're got a whole bunch of trial and error done. And I'm excited. I hope it keeps snowing, because we just made a ton of changes, people, machines, equipment, technique in the last 3 weeks, that I'm excited. And I hope we're going to kill it the rest of this winter, because we've had that opportunity.
Oh, definitely. I hope the same for y'all. Appreciate that encouragement, and hope that's blessing some other snow fighters. I'm a man of faith. I've been praying, believe me, for winter to hit, because I've seen the challenges. Like, I don't know if you heard the Snow Jobs episode about the low pricing epidemic. But I was like, I'm like, Lord, please send snow. Like, this needs to be a reset. Like, people need to, and I hesitate saying that because I don't want to look like I'm smug, or I'm like, haha, told you so. Now you have an ice patch. Like, I don't, because that's not safe, obviously. And I don't want to look like I'm flexing on that. But I do want to have a genuine reminder of like what this takes and everything that goes into it. And I think some of those things are great things to even educate property managers with, is like those real stories of, hey, look, we've had times where, stuff comes early, we might not get it right, but one thing to even say, one thing I've been big on is educating people to ask in the sales process, like, are you comparing apples to apples, and almost giving buyers, questions they should be asking.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, like, if your provider fails, do they have a process of how they're going to own it and make changes? We do, because somebody might come 70% under you, and it's like, oh, well, I'm saving 70% with them. But, that might be a 1-2 man operation that does not have that plan, or has no idea, or hasn't even thought about those kind of things. So, you go with them and they fail, they're going to be like, well, I'll just get it better next time. But they don't even have the resources, or even that's another thing, asking about like, what resources do you have if things get heavy? You know what I mean? And because I think a lot of times with bids, and now I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I think a lot of times there's not apples to apples comparison from the buying side. There's not, you just look at price, and I'm somebody who didn't come in the snow industry the same way y'all did. Like I actually my background's always been on like the HR people, recruiting, talent side. I went from higher ed to banking to hit kind of a career low point after I took a payroll and benefits job in banking that was not in line with my strength. But honestly, I was tired of job searching at the time and failed at it badly, resigned to keep from getting fired off the improvement plan I was on, and just wanted to get back in recruiting, and happened to be a recruiter opening for a snow company here in the Pittsburgh area. That's how I got involved with the industry and kind of caught the passion from there, because I was able to rebuild my career and rebuild my confidence through that opportunity. And I mean, it's crazy because if you would have told me when I walked in there in 2019 that, hey, by early 2026, like you're going to be interviewing company owners and operations leaders and you're going to have a podcast and be consulting, I would have told you were crazy. Like, this is nuts. No, I'm not. Like, so I share that to encourage it. Things can change too, and things can really turn. But I say all that to say, back to the buyer side, I do come from that, kind of corporate side. And I do know that sometimes they're taught like, oh yeah, as long as it looks good on the spreadsheet balance, you've done good buying. But I would challenge any property managers or buying, listen into that. Like, think about those hidden costs of failure. Think about that reputation risk. Think about, ask yourself, are you working with somebody like y'all who is winter risk management, that is going through creating a site plan, making sure you put piles in a place where they melt, into, a drain or away from, making sure you're not piling salted snow on, landscaping that's going to ruin it. All those kind of things. Like, are you thinking about that? Or are you just looking at the dollars? Because here's the thing, you might have saved, $20,000, but if they buried your landscaping and you have to replace all of that in the spring, did you save anything?
I'd love to comment on all that, but I don't know if you want this to be another hour and a half onto the podcast, because I have a lot to say about a lot of the stuff that you shared.
I think we should let's save that, and we can definitely find a part two. That can be something we come back with.
Have us on for a part two. We love pushing snow. Harry's got, starting like in March or April, maybe April, he's got a countdown timer above his desk to when next winter starts. Like,
oh, wow.
We run 70 guys in a snowstorm and 6 the rest of the year. Everything is snow here. We love it.
That's awesome. And
except for when we hate it, but then the rest of the time we love it.
But I think that's probably why I can tell, just connecting with people, because again, I do this on top of, I have a full-time job in talent management in another industry. So I do this on top of that just because I love it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, I think I put it on my LinkedIn finally that I'm the only hub services pro in snow removal. So I think I have that on.
It's a niche.
It is a niche. It's a small one. I don't know. I'm gonna keep it me. If anybody else out there that works in hub services also has a passion for snow, wants to get into it, let's talk. I can help you get started as well. There's a need for more of me as well. But yeah, I feel you though. We definitely could. I mean, being that the Snow Jobs episode itself was an hour and a half on that. I mean, it was thick, because I heard it. Yeah. I recap stuff on like my LinkedIn, and I was taking tons of notes off of that, because I was like, yeah, we need to. So yeah, you're right. But just as I close up the podcast here, just want to, close out for those of y'all that are listening, definitely to say this has been NetGain Networking Encouragement Training. If you like what you hear, definitely make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. Leave us that review, that 5-star review with comments. That really helps drive the engagement. And then if you think anything on here could help someone else, definitely share it with them, because that word of mouth from trusted peers goes a long way. And finally, if you do need help hiring, training, retaining your employees, definitely let's talk. That's why Jack of All People Trades exists. This is Evan Tashwire, Jack of All People Trades, signing off.
With no weather, but you ain't gon' slip and fall with that. Why? Cause we snow fighters, we assaulting that. Get it, salting that. King me the salting rap. Clown brokers, end of the road. This a cul-de-sac. Blackout with white glove service. That's the coldest facts. Sparks flying from the start. It's a Goldberg match. Wild with the snow clouds.